Hello everyone and welcome to the IRQB webinar on performance management. My name is Artur Dana. I'm a communications manager at Unifa and I will be today guiding you through the event. We will be jumping into the topic of performance management in a second. Before we do, I already see that you have started using the Mentimeter platform, answering the first question that we have put there. So I suggest all of you who have not yet done so to go there. The Mentimeter platform allows you to answer to some of the polls that we put up, and also it allows you to ask questions from our presenters. So to use the platform, just go to menti.com and use the code that you see on the slide. So the one that goes 1202501. Today is the second webinar for IRQB. The first webinar was in November last year, and we are very glad to see this strong interest that we saw during the first webinar, and we are also seeing now with more than 300 people registered. We're very happy to see that, and this gives a very positive sign to all of our sector. The last webinar during the last webinar we focused on the impact of the crisis on the way that that we work and how it influences our business and lives. Unfortunately, we cannot yet say that the pandemic would be over, but nevertheless, we can assure you that the work of IRQB is still going ahead and going strong, and to share all of that good work that we do with you, we have decided to launch a series of online events called IRQB Quality Monthly. So this will be the first one, and then next one after every month. So in the beginning of each month, we will be having a new topic that is focusing on a new area of rail quality. So we are quite happy to launch that, despite the fact that we still have the ongoing pandemic and we are not able to meet yet in person, but hopefully we can also do that very soon. The first webinar that we are going to have in this series of webinars throughout the year is focusing on performance management, and we are very happy to have here with us today a list of very high-level speakers from all across the sector. So today with us today we have Stefan Siegler, who is chair of IRQB and vice president of business excellence and quality management at Siemens Mobility. So Stefan Siegler will be able to give us two different perspectives. So the perspective of IRQB and IRIS certification, as well as the perspective of Siemens Mobility to the topic of performance management. After that, we go on to Patrice Camilleri, who is a global performance manager at Alstom, and who's also part of the working group that was working on the guideline for KPIs. So this guideline document is actually already published, and you can go and see that online on the IRQB website under the section publications. And Patrice will in his intervention be focusing then on how to implement a strong performance management system to bring added business value. He will be talking about that in the context of Alstom. After that, we have Jana Jung, IRIS development manager. Jana is responsible for in charge of IRIS quality performance levels. So she will give you an overview of the different levels and requirements. And last, but definitely not least, we have Michael Betts, who is quality manager at Schaeffler. Schaeffler is also a member of IRQB, and we are very happy to have Michael with us today. He will be giving us a very practical overview, real-life example of how IRIS performance management implementation at a company. And also he will be telling you how this benefited his company. But without further ado, I'd like to introduce the first speaker now. Before I do that, all of you who are listening right now and who definitely also want to ask questions, I encourage you to do that through Mentimeter platform. You can do that throughout the event. So already when you are listening to the different speakers, I suggest you go onto the platform and submit your question. And then we will be getting to that after all the presentations are done. But now Stefan Ziegler will take the floor and give his presentation. Stefan.
Yeah. Thank you, Arthur. Dear all, a warm welcome also from my side. Today I will speak to you, as Arthur introduced myself, first as the chairman of the IRQB, and then switch my virtual hat to the head of quality and business excellence of Siemens Mobility. So first of all, let me share some thoughts from the point of view of IRQB. Next slide, please. So I would like to show you first why we focus on performance management in IRIS certification. We as the IRQB, we are making up our minds about the value of a management system, as there are a lot of management systems in the market. We concluded our thoughts that the pure proof of the existence of a management system is simply not enough. We also like to know if the management system is effectively working. We really want to trust in the certificate. And we want to know if we can expect a high quality in deliveries of a certified company. If we can trust in this, we, for example, can reduce our third-party audits and thus create value. So the value of a certificate is mainly created by the performance and not only by the existence of the management system. And this leads me to the next slide. So how did we design IRIS certification according to this need? You all know the ISO TS 22163 here on the left-hand side of the chart, which shows that it comprises both the ISO 9001 requirements as well as some rail-specific supplementals, which are listed below. The relevant part to create trust in the certificate is part of the conformity assessment, so the right-hand part of the slide, showing here in green. Of course, IRIS certification ensures the management system, the left-hand part of the right-hand side, ensures the existence of the management system according to the requirements of ISO TS 22163 and proves that it's established. So the same as 9001, for example, is doing as well. These are the basics. Beside the customer perception, which will be part of another seminar, the performance management, shown on the right-hand side, of the 5 core essential processes is checked. Only if these processes are reliably working, quality performance in delivery can be expected. I can tell you from the view of an operational side of supplier quality management that all suppliers failing in reliable supply failed in one or more of these processes. So this is the reason why we consider them as being core, being fully trusted, and being performance evaluated and measured. So this is the reason overall why performance management and performance evaluation is so important. Next slide, please. Beside customer perception and performance evaluation, both will become visible on the certificate. So you can see that we will start with the bronze level, which is already above the 9001 level because it comprises the very specific supplementals. We increase the customer satisfaction and product quality to the silver level, which gives a good transparency on the performance level and the transparency on customer perception. Even if it's not yet matching the requirements of the customer, but giving a full transparency and everybody knows where this company is standing. And finally, the gold level is really showing the trust in a reliable supplier with full performance of the core processes according to the customer needs. So these are the three levels, and as you might know, we are the only certification scheme with IRO certification, which indicates the performance level in the certificate with the bronze, silver, and gold certificates that a customer can really trust in a certificate. Next slide, please. And with the next slide, I will switch my hat from the IRQB view on the Siemens Mobility head of quality view, and would like to share some thoughts why for us as Siemens Mobility, IRIS certification and the conformity assessment 2020 is a real advantage, and we consider it bringing several advantages to our business. So what is our experience in the supply chain? For example, we see an improved quality based on a standardized system and performance management. We ourselves can reduce the effort in the supply chain, and for our suppliers in the supply chain, this is also a reduced effort with a reduced number of third-party or second-party audits. Secondly, we see improvements in the business management system. So the continual improvement of our business management system, the more business focus is a real advantage. And on the customer side, using the elements of measuring customer perception, giving the transparency of performance to the customers leads to an increased transparency and trust in our company and in our quality performance. Last but not least, I will focus on the performance itself, because we obviously don't do it for the auditor, we do it for ourselves, and we don't do it only for the 5 core processes, but also for all other important processes in our company. We are focusing on strong KPIs. We are continuously improving the processes by business relevant KPIs which are really key, which are really focused on performance, and like this having a good value creation and further improvement. A very close link to our business performance. Next slide, please. I would like to detail a little bit on the performance part. So the management system switched really from a compliance to this with the standard to matching the business needs. Our KPI definition is clearly business performance oriented, based on a quite strict definition of KPI. Like this, top managers and the boards are interested in this KPI to further improve the value creation of core processes. Compared to the 9001, neither the standard nor the auditor is asking for such a strict and business-oriented orientation of KPIs. Like this, quality is strengthening the business, and the management is strengthening the quality as main driver for our performance process. And now I would stop advertising the advantages. We'll hand over to Patrice, who can show you how this can be implemented operationally, and he will show it for his example in Alstom. Thank you for attention.
Thank you very much, Stefan, for this very interesting presentation. We will now carry on, as also said by Stefan, with the presentation by Patrice Camilleri. So Patrice, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Arthur. Good afternoon to everyone. So my name is Patrice Camilleri. I'm in charge of global performance, so facilitating mostly the coordination and the preparation of everything related to the operational performance and KPIs within Alstom. What you will see today is a testimony of how we have implemented a KPI system in order to support not only the IRIS certification, but of course to support the business and business creation, value creation. And so I will give you basically hints on how we did the journey and what have we done in order to implement something which we believe today is at a good level of maturity. Many parts of the contents you will see, by the way, are also a reflect of all the good practices we have shared in the working group on the KPI guidelines, which has been mentioned before. So with colleagues from Siemens, Hitachi, and Voith, as an example, who were part of the working group as well. If we can go to the next slide, let's start a bit the journey. So basically, to make it simple, we started from a position where we had too many KPIs in our company, very heavy reviews, which needed a lot of management attention, many KPIs everywhere, some freedom within the functions to decide what they want to put in terms of KPI, changing KPIs more or less too often. Sometimes a disconnect also with the business objectives we had. And in the end, let's say it wasn't fully robust, it was good enough. What was the wake-up call in the end was a non-conformity we got on an IRIS audit. So that was a good thing about this, because it was the wake-up call, and from there we structured, let's say, 1 or 2 resources in order to take care again. I see there are comments of not having sound. So far, I was hearing very well the others, so I'm going to continue. So basically, from there, we decided to do something about the performance system, and we implemented a few guiding principles to guide the way we review all of this. So of course, linking again the strategy of the company with the KPIs, because that's the best way you can do in order to support your business. We have simplified a lot the governance of the performance reviews themselves, and whether are the high-level performance reviews or the periodic reviews we have. You will see that on the following slides. We have established clear rule of the games regarding performance management. So, for example, no KPI without a target, very formal target setting process, KPI definition sheets every time we have a key KPI reported at top management level. So we are very strict on this. In the selection of KPIs, this is also something we have in the KPI guidelines. You'll be able to read how to select the best KPIs, but we have tried to mix both deployment KPIs and result KPIs to follow implementation of actions, but also what are the results coming out of those actions, to be able to do what we do, the leading and lagging indicators, the ones that will lead to eventually a result at the end. One of the also guiding principles we have put is the transparency. So Stefan has just mentioned it. It's very important that the numbers are well known, the performance is well known across the organization. And if we have very clear, say, definitions, way to calculate KPIs, information systems to support the KPI preparation, then everybody is able to get the view on the KPI and create also this KPI culture. And one of the things also we have implemented, at least for the key reviews, is any underperforming KPI not performing according to its set target, means an action plan. So we don't have any more of those scorecards with just figures. We also have an explanation and the action plan behind it. And of course, part of all this review work was to address performance management as part of the certification roadmap. So of course, the selection of KPIs, the way we have done the governance, was done also to make sure that we also address the KPIs we need for the IRIS certification as well. So all in all, let's say that we went up from a situation, if you look to my 98%, basically today we have 98% of what we call the key operations KPI. So that's quite a handful of operations KPI, which are formalized in our management system with a specific KPI definition sheet for each one of them. And this is known in the whole company. So we avoid having the pitfall of having KPI calculated differently across different business units, different regions, different countries, different plants, and so on. So the rule of the game is clear. This is the way you do it, and this is the way you report it, whether it's internally or let's say for a certification. And we went up from a situation where we're only at 55. So and it took quite some time to get there, but at least now the culture is picking up, and we don't have any more KPIs spread across the organization without any definition or clear rules. And also, I like this 15 operational KPIs because, as you recall what I've said just before, we had around 60 KPIs reviewed every month at top management level in terms of operations, and we have streamlined this to only the key KPIs we need to do that. Of course, the guys in the organizations supporting that review a little bit more. So the more you go up the pyramid, the organizational pyramid, the less KPIs you have. So 15 KPIs to be able to review the business and get a clear view on the state of the business and focusing only on the key ones. If we can go to the next slide. So this is something you will also see in the KPI guideline, because this is the result also of the group we had. The whole thing is built, of course, according to something which we call back to the basics. We have processes, we have process summary cards, you know that. Those process summary cards for KPIs. Those KPIs are formalized in a clear KPI definition sheet. And in the guideline, you have all the good practices on what to put in the KPI definition sheet. The KPIs are measured through tools, and we suggest to have really digitized tools, automated tools that enable you to get a KPI without manual work, which is tedious, not creating value, but also can lead to mistakes or misunderstanding in the organization. And of course, all of this then is supported by all the reviews you will do based on those KPIs. And all those reviews will trigger, let's say, day-to-day actions, but also in the end, once we do the very formal process or management reviews, to improving the processes. So doing the good performance management actually creates also a virtuous cycle to push for improvements, not only on the KPI itself or the operational actions, but also on the whole system which supports the KPIs, namely processes. If we go to the next slide, I will show you basically what we have set up in terms of organizing our governance. So if we look from the left, let's say, first thing we have done, as I said before, is to go from the company vision to what we need to manage the sites and make sure that at each level of the organization, whether it's the top management, CEO or region senior vice presidents to, let's say, a site, we define what are the KPIs needed to be able to manage the business. And so this is something we have done as a first step. Then the next step was to streamline what I've said before. So less KPIs to be monitored by the top management. And the more you go down the pyramid, more you have KPIs to be able to measure all parts of the business and be able to take the appropriate actions. So what we have is those 15 level KPIs you see at the top level. So it's in the right part, you see this big table, 15 KPIs. Which give the full view. If we go one level below, then we see what we call the level 1 KPIs plus the level 2 in order to get a bit more detail on our operations. And for this, we have slightly more, let's say, information, but we have standardized this across all regions. So we have the same format and the same KPIs, and of course, coming from the same tools, same systems, same definitions, as I said before. And if you go one level below, if you take one of the function leaders, then he will have his own dashboard built on what you see on level 1 and level 2. So what the CEO will see will be seen by the leadership team of that function, but also some extra KPIs to manage something which is more detailed. And if you go one level below, we have formalized what should be a standard site dashboard in order to have, let's say, a clear scorecard. And of course, those KPIs are also linked to what will be seen at the very top level. And also some of those KPIs at site level, of course, are contributing to the performance of KPIs above. So it's this notion of KPI tree or KPI pyramid, if you want. But in the end, we have a formalized system where we know each KPI is reported at which level, is seen in which governance review, which meeting, and is seen by which level of the management. And in that way, the whole, let's say, performance system is clear. If I go to the next slide, this is the story, and it took some time to make it happen. And to be very honest, it hasn't been always easy, because of course it was quite some structural change in our habits, in the way we do business. At the same time, we had digitalization coming, so this is also supported that. But I tried summarizing what was key to make it a success, because we believe today in Alstom we have made something that really works fine. The first point, and I really insist if we have the top managers of companies hearing us today, is it was the will of the top management and their strong will that was the game changer, which enabled the team to be able to do the change and push everyone to change their habits and change the way we do. So you need to get the sponsorship of the top management and their push in order to make it happen. I really insist on that point. Of course, one of the things we have done was not to give it to someone which was, let's say, involved, one of the functions. So it was organized, let's say, by a neutral party, continuous improvement and transformation, coordinating this, defining clear roles and responsibilities and who does what. And doing this, we enabled no one to be in the lead, but we took the lead and we helped people define each function and then providing the overall picture in a very clear way. One of the things also that made it a success is that we tried having consistency on everything we measure. So sometimes in different business units, you don't have the same measurement because the the activity is not the same. However, we tried having the same theme of KPIs on time. Let's say if we take a level of quality, you don't measure defects for a component or for a train the same way you measure defects for a software. But in the end, we have this more or less the same kind of KPIs because we want to measure the same themes, even though the KPI itself is not exactly the same or measured the same way. Target setting, I've said it before, but that was also key to set once a year in a very informal way targets, be able to cascade them in the organization. And we have very different channels to be able to cascade that so that everybody is clear on their contribution also to the KPIs. And so clear target setting is key because you can measure the things very well. If the targets are not clear, not well cascaded, not well put at the right level and for each plant or each business unit, then you won't be able to have something which is strong to take actions on it. KPI definition sheet culture, I've mentioned it before. I think this is key because by pushing everyone to have a clear definition of a KPI, you know, how you calculate it, data sources, scope, and so on, you push the owner of the KPI to have something which is quite robust and make sure that his organization and his tools are really supporting the KPI preparation and being able to take the right actions. So I keep on insisting on this. Don't have one of the key KPIs if you don't have a KPI sheet. We're very, very clear on that. And of course, last but not least, is all about communication. So it took a lot of time and it took a lot of communication. We've done a lot of internal webinars trying to go through a lot of communities, method and tools, ahead of the functions, but also, let's say, general public, because I think it's important and it's everyone's duty to be aware about that and also see how they contribute to improving the KPI system at their very own level. Of course, we have used a lot of the quality management system network, of course, because they're working on IRIS to support that, and even use internal audit to be also a bit pushy sometimes on the controls to make sure we don't have one of the areas of the organization not following those rules. And now, just to conclude on this, how do we see the future now that we have done this this journey? What we're trying to put is make sure that our key KPIs are enforced in what we call our maturity model roadmap. It's called Alstom Performance System, whereby we try to enforce with each of the function. We have a maturity roadmap, and we try to make sure that to increase the maturity, we also have not only good governance and good measurement of the KPI, but also the strong actions, the feedback loop to improve the process and so on. So we're trying to let's say close the loop also with our performance system to make sure that we have something that keeps on going strong. Information systems are key because if you keep, let's say, KPIs which are manually operated, manual declaration, you are prone to errors, you're prone to sometimes misunderstandings. Whereas if you work with databases where you work with a tool to work, then you're able to have a very easy calculation, but you're also sure that what comes out is the result of just the tool doing the work and not interpretation or mistake in the input. So also this is one of the axes we're working on to try to automate all the residual KPIs we have in order to have something which is robust. And at the end, one of the, let's say, more advanced stuff we're trying to do is making sure to have a full mapping of our KPIs, mostly to see if we are able to have data to action, so meaning systematic analysis of the data, and then making sure that we have an action leading to answer the KPI, and building, let's say, more robust KPI tree to see all the interactions between the KPIs, which KPIs trigger which improvement in which KPI 1 or 2 level above. So this is one thing we are now pursuing. So I hope it was interesting. So don't be shy. Please ask questions, and we'll answer that in the Q&A session. And I hope it was interesting for you. Again, don't forget you have a lot of information in the KPI guidelines, which we have issued a few months ago. In case you have questions or you want to go further on this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Patrice. And indeed, the ones who you are interested in the KPI guideline document, you can find that on the IRQB website, irqb.org. And from there, you need to navigate to the publications section. So there you find the KPI guidelines together with other guideline documents and other publications. Next one, I would like to invite to the floor Jana Jung, IRIS Development Manager. Jana, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Arthur. Hello to everybody from Germany and welcome to our IRQB webinar. Yeah, as Arthur already said, my name is Jana Jung and I am the IRIS Development Manager at the IRIS Management Center of UNIFE. Today, I would like to talk with you about our IRIS certification quality performance levels. For us at the IMC and also for all the members of the IRQB, they are, beside our IRIS certificate, a second certificate on trust. So at the next slide, Arthur, I prepared 3 pictures for you and I would like you to ask yourself how they might be related to our IRIS certification scheme. Because on the left hand, we see a picture which seems to be related to any kind of evaluation or scoring. At the picture in the middle, 2 persons are shaking hands, a situation that is currently unfortunately not possible, but maybe we can consider why they are doing this. Maybe they agreed on a really good deal, or maybe they are even really long-standing partners. And on the last picture, on the right side, you see 3 arrows that are right in the bullseye of the dartboard. So there someone definitely has improved his dart skills to a top performance. So to answer your question, how these pictures are connected to our IRIS certification, I would like to show you the next slide and explain you why I chose these pictures. So at the next slide, you see that as Mr. Ziegler, okay, can you go to the next slide? Okay, no, sorry, can you go one back? Okay, good. So you see that they are connected in the way that we have the enablers evaluation, which is the one from the picture on the left side. As most of you are aware, and as Stefan has already explained, the IRIS assessment is done with the IRIS certification assessment sheet. Regarding the single items of the assessment sheet, different maturity levels can be reached. So starting with the defined maturity level, which is given when all requirements of ISO TS 22163, you can even improve with the qualified or the optimized maturity level. The second pillar of the IRIS scoring methodology is the customer perception. And this is why I chose the picture of the handshake. So regarding the customer perception, on the one hand, the KPIs on-time delivery to the customer and also non-conformities raised by the customer are taken into consideration. And on the other hand, the organization who wants to be certified also needs to collect some customer feedback regarding their customer satisfaction. So the third pillar is the process performance evaluation. And for me, this is really comparable to the DART picture. Because if an organization has processes that are well described, implemented and maintained, and in addition, the processes are delivering the customer expected results, this is a clear hit in the bullseye. So as Stefan already said, these processes are requirements management, project management, control of externally provided processes, products and services, also known as EPPPS, design and development, and production and service provision. So during the performance evaluation, the 5 mandatory or main mandatory processes of an organization are assessed with a more intense approach. And in the end, there is a percentage for each of these pillars calculated to give the fulfillment of requirements. So now, the next slide, I would like a bit to contribute with my presentation. Regarding what you have just heard, what is in your opinion the pillar that is most challenging in the IRIS certification? You can use the Mentimeter as you did in the beginning of the presentation. And let's see what you think. Okay, I can completely agree with you, as the customer perception is really sometimes a difficult pillar to be assessed on. What is really surprising is the enabler evaluation. So all of you seem to be really familiar with our enablers. Okay, perfect. So maybe we go to the next slide to see a bit the connection to our quality performance levels. So if you have already participated in our last IRQB webinar, you might remember this slide I prepared. And Stefan also had a similar one in his presentation. The slide shows the evolution of our quality performance levels. We started with the bronze performance level, and since last year, it is also possible to achieve a silver performance level. And next year, there will be also the possibilities to even achieve the highest of the performance levels. So the gold performance level is the one which we call a certificate of trust. But to make the connection between the different pillars of the scoring methodology and the quality performance level, I would like to show you on the next slide how they are all connected together. So here you see a little table that describes it to you the best way possible. So related to the percentage of the 3 different pillars of the scoring methodology, the audited organization is eligible for one of the 3 performance levels. The bronze performance level is granted if all applicable items in the assessment sheets are related or are rated as the defined maturity level. If the company has in addition a performing management system and performing processes, they will be able to gain the high enough score in all 3 pillars to be eligible for our silver performance level. But not only the results in the assessment sheet and also the assessment itself are important, the audit documentation is also checked in detail by the IMC. By doing this, the detailed check of the audit documents, we want to assure that the silver performance level is completely justifiable. So in September 2021, we will also start to review all companies that are eligible to reach the gold performance level. And I and also the other members of the IMC are really looking forward to this upcoming journey. So now that you have learned some more information about the quality performance levels, and in relation to what I just learned from you is most challenging, on the next slide I would like to ask the ones participating from a company that is already IRIS certified. So what do you think? Which quality performance level will your company achieve in the next IRIS certification audit? I see we have some really high mature companies in our webinar today. Okay, maybe we can switch to the next slide, then I can give you a little overview about the performance levels we have already granted. So this is also my last slide, and I would like to show you the spread of our silver certificates that were reached until now. Due to our silver test phase, we estimated that 5% of the certified companies are also able to reach the silver performance level. So according to the results, even 1% of the certified companies could be also eligible for the gold performance level. So I see that really the high potentials are also in the webinar today. Currently, there are 11 companies that already reached the goal of the silver performance level, and they are located all over the world. We have some European and Asian companies, but we also have one company from North America that was awarded the silver performance level. And let's hope there are more to come, but according to your answers we just had, I am really sure there are more to come. This was the last slide of my presentation, and I would now hand back over to Arthur.
Thank you very much, Jana, for this very nice presentation, and I'm very happy to see that our audience is very much dedicated to quality and is aiming for the highest possible quality levels during their next audit. As a next speaker, I'm gonna invite to the floor Michael Betts from Schaeffler. Before I do so, I also encourage you to ask questions on Mentimeter. So go to menti.com and enter the code that you will see on the next slide that I will put on in just a second, and then ask questions through that. But now I will give the floor to Michael Betts.
So, okay, hello everybody once more again, also from my side. Short introduction. I'm Michael Betts. I'm working for the Schaeffler Technologies, and I'm located in Schweinfurt, Germany. And I'm responsible or in charge for the business unit railway as a quality manager. In addition, I am a member of the IRQB working group 2. And this working group 2 will arrange or will analyze the feedback of the ISO TS or from the certification conformity assessments and try to suggest improvements, possibilities to the IRQB. Okay, let's give me some words about the Schaeffler way, about how we implement the performance management, which is our topic today for the next few minutes. Let's have a look to slide 1, please, Arthur. According to our understanding, of Schaeffler, and of course also from the IRIS or UNIFE, the IRIS certification conformity and assessment, the requirements can be divided into the 3 main groups. We already talked about these groups, and that groups in turn can be considered in further sub-items. The first side or in the first slide, I have limited myself only to the umbrella which describes the scope of the performance management. These are the enabler evaluation, the customer perception, and the process performance evaluation. Basically, I would like to mention that Schaeffler is a company that supplies not only industrial applications, but also aerospace and above all automotive customers. For this reason, we have already implemented common standards like ISO 9001 or IATF 16949, or even also the aerospace requirements according EN 9100. Above all, the IATF requirements have been lived in the company for a long time, and this is our main driven system. And this is the reason why I explicitly will call it also that we have a different background, maybe as other railway producing companies like Alstom, Bombardier, and so on. The implementation of all kinds of requirements is therefore basically carried out within our quality system by means of globally valid standards and specification. Necessary processes are described by using procedures and standards which are valid for all plants and organizations, of course. So for separate and specific expectations that are not described within already existing standards and which have been a limited scope, there is an option of creating instruction. And this is what we have done in relation to the IRIS conformity assessment. In order to meet the requirements of performance management, we also had to describe procedures for IRIS certified areas separately in a specific instruction. Basically, we defined all necessary Schaeffler internal demands to achieve this IRIS compliance. Above all, we had to find regulations for the following subject areas. You can see it in the slide. So it is handling customer perception within the rail industry of Schaeffler, of course. How to drive the stakeholder analysis for the rail unit. how we will evaluate the mandatory processes, and how can we review those processes itself. Well, Otto, in the next slide, I would like briefly to explain or to address the related challenges for Schaeffler. As seen on the previous page, and also discussed a little bit before, and have seen in the audience in the question of Jana, we also don't have excessive challenges with enabler evaluation. The requirements of the ISO TS 22163 are, well, of course, not for 100% covered by the existing industrial and automotive standards we have. The same applies to the stakeholder analysis. It is available throughout Schaeffler, even it is not standardized. So a central analysis is carried out by the business unit rail of Schaeffler and sent to all organizations once a year. The affected organizations, which are obliged to run such a stakeholder analysis as well, like our production plants, can use parts of it in their own view. However, the really challenging task for us is the handling of the external customer feedback, direct feedback from the customer. Unfortunately, with the exception of a few customers, we do not receive sufficient data from our customers that allows us an evaluation or even allows us to break down such data to our performing production plants. As a result, it is currently not possible for the industrial plants to break down the external feedback of our customers and evaluate the performance of individual locations. So our plants do not have the chance to act on customers' voice directly. But for this reason, we are currently using our internal measurements of complaints and delivery reliability to get an idea about our performance, but we are able to display also a plant customer correlation, and this allows us to get rather a good feeling about our capabilities. So we do have a solution about how to handle customer performance, even it's not directly from the customer. What about process performance? This is the second part, which is quite challenging for us. So why is it challenging? Schaeffler is, I think, like the most of these tier 2 or tier 3 suppliers, which are already provide products into automotive, is a process-oriented company. Means processes are defined overall, not located on one place. Different locations only partly participate. Some processes are measured, controlled, and evaluated by the process owner, which is in a central department or in a central headquarters. They have basic KPIs monitoring the complete process. Yeah, let's have a look to the slide, which you currently see on the screen. I tried to display our current situation. You can see we are able to evaluate all mandatory processes, and I just give you some overview about the 5 key processes, the 5 mandatory processes for evaluation. We can evaluate all these 5 mandatory processes within our rail sector. So it's quite close to the requirements we got from the IRIS. But nevertheless, for a few processes, we have an overall view, which of course describes the performance of the process in total. And these affected processes we defined at the moment, or we use for that, and we just have an overall view on business unit railway level, of course, is project management, order generation process, and the product development process. So our challenge is to find local and comparable KPIs. And I think there was also a first question in the audience: how do we handle KPIs at Schaeffler? Well, of course, we do have for each certified organization a KPI, but coming back to this 5 key processes which are on the screen right now, then we have for the 813, 82 and 83, we have the challenge that at the moment we do have an overall KPI, and this also makes it a little bit difficult for us to evaluate those processes on the local basis. We have an overall process evaluation for the business unit rail, of course. So we need a business unit specific solution in the next month, I would say, or at least if we go to silver level, because most of our plants at the moment reached bronze level, and we are certified in 7 producing sites for railway at the moment. Yeah, I think these are the main or most challenging topics we have at the moment. But nevertheless, I would like to change to slide 3, Arthur. The question is there an added value for Schaeffler in spite of those challenging and still open requirements we have to solve? Yes, it is, from my point of view. In my opinion, the IRIS performance management will offer several advantages for the enterprise, even for our tier 2 or tier 3 suppliers. For example, by building trust through transparency, we will have a better customer relationship, of course. The participation of the stakeholders also leads to an increase in motivation. The proximity to the customer offers the opportunity to improve customer satisfaction and thus secure and expand the market share. It's kind of like a slogan, be prepared for the future. And even customer key figures, which we are still not have in our hands for all kinds we need. And also if we still need some regular feedback from the customer about our performance, they will in the future influence our standardized processes and yes, can identify and help us to limit unnecessary activities. So I think we will get faster and probably and for sure also more efficient. Well, so finally, I'm really sure that Schaeffler, as a sub-supplier for the rail vehicle industry, will have a strong benefit by the implementation of the ISO TS 22163 and by the utilization of the IRIS performance management. And I think these few words should close my short introduction or explanation how Schaeffler tries to implement and use this performance management guided by the IRIS certification conformity assessment. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Michael. This was a very interesting presentation indeed, and this also concluded the presentations that we are we have today. But one of the most interesting parts is still to come. The Q&A session will start now. We have already received quite many questions. Very happy about that. Those of you who have not yet submitted your question, please go to menti.com and enter the code that you see in order to ask also questions yourself. The first question that we received, I think it's most suitable for Stefan. Of course, all other presenters can answer as well. What is the difference between ISO 9001 KPIs and the KPIs which are required by IRIS certification, Stefan?
So, yeah, thank you for the question. I think the principle is to that extent different that 9001 is not having precise qualification of the KPI. If you attend an ISO 9001 audit, you will encounter with the question, do you have KPIs? and nearly everything you propose is accepted as KPI, even if it's neither key nor performance. As Patrice indicated, the high necessity to make it business relevant in the, for example, Alstom performance system, this is exactly what we address as well in the IRIS certification. So the auditor will ask you, who are your stakeholders of the process? What what requirements do the stakeholder of your process have? How do you define based on this the targets of your process? And then the KPIs have to be appropriate to measure exactly the achievement of these targets. So they have to be key, they have to be performance, and this has to be proven that the indicators are really key in measuring performance. This is exactly what we are asking for in IRIS certification. Other schemes doesn't do so. So the qualification of KPI in IRIS is much higher than in other schemes. And yeah, maybe Patrice, you can elaborate more specific on your solution. How do you define it? But I think you already mentioned it in your presentation.
Yes, that's right. I don't know if you all hear me, but that's exactly the thing. Having, I would say, indicators or metrics that measure something, but having something which is formalized part of a system and that is there to support the business in the end is what makes the key difference.
Thank you very much for this answer. The next question, I believe, could be for Patrice. Question is there any digital tools available for KPI management?
Well, there are many digital tools out there. So depending on the size of the company, of course, some companies could still work, I'd say, with Excel at some point if it's a quite small company. If you get to a certain level of size and number of locations, plants that you want to measure, then you need to invest somewhat in an IT system that enables business intelligence. So of course, connecting your ERP, if you have an ERP, or connecting any kind of internal database to be able to consolidate this data easily and without human intervention, let's say that's the best thing. So you have a Microsoft application which is called Power BI. There is ClickSense, which we use also in Alstom to be able to consolidate data from all kinds of sources, SharePoint, Excels, databases, ERP, and so on.
Thank you very much. I believe we have a one question that could be good to answer by Jana. Is it possible that any company is not having any level but still remains IRIS certified, meaning not even having a bronze level?
Yeah, there's a clear answer to this question. No, this is not possible. At least the bronze quality performance level will be issued if a company is achieving all the necessary maturity levels in their assessment sheet. So every company that is certified will at least get the bronze certificate from us.
That is good to know. One specific question for Michael, you. In Schaeffler, are you benefiting from performing in different sectors such as automotive and railways, or is just doubling of resources to comply to different sets of requirements?
Yeah, for sure. So we are benefiting from other sectors, from automotive, of course. Yeah, we can use it, and especially when we just talked a few words to the enabler and evaluation. Of course, we are quite familiar with the technical requirements from the ISO TS 22163, and when we have also a look to the performance management, especially to the customer feedback I mentioned as a great challenge in the future, then we know how it could work, how we can get customer feedback, for example, and targets and so on. And what we can offer to the customers also, which we can provide from the automotive. So for sure, so we have some experience from other sectors like automotive, for example, also from wind as well, how we can handle or we can find internal solutions. But at the moment, we are still struggling with the situation that automotive is running in a standardized system, and industry and railway, maybe we have to develop something. But benefits we definitely have. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Michael. I believe we have one question that could be interesting to answer for Stefan. How do leading customers recognize bronze, silver, and gold performance levels? Is there any established? Are there any established business benefits for a supplier against invested resources?
That's a good question. So we get often answered, if I'm IRIS certified, is it a guarantee for getting contracts or however? I would like to turn around the question. So if you get a contract and getting awarded for deliveries of specific rail equipment, for example, you give a promise to deliver in time and quality. Quite often we see today that either the one or the other or both are not matched. The list of quality defects is from the supply chain is quite long. So I think the idea is more relevant, first of all, to take the IRIS scheme as a internal improvement and help to prove the reliability towards your customers. To make use of the customer perception module to show your quality performance, be transparent on quality performance, and show how you will meet the customer requirements you promised yourself in the delivery contract. And as all of us as best practice pointed out today, so both Schaeffler, Alstom and Siemens as well, we use it ourselves to become even better and to become more professional, more reliable, and delivering a higher quality. So the first question is, how can I make IRIS the best practice for my company to increase the customer satisfaction? And these finally will lead as well to a better market position and value creation. I think this is the way we should ask the question, and I think this matches especially also the view of the operators.
Thank you very much. Next question would be, I guess, for Patrice, as you were involved with the KPI guidelines. How IRIS differentiates between quality objective and KPI?
Well, there are two things, but of course, working together. So the KPI is the instrument to be able to measure the performance of a process, or be able to measure the result of the activity of a process, and to be able to know if the value you get out of this measurement is good or bad. It needs to be put in front of a target which is set. And the target can be set because it is in line with the objectives, strategic objectives of the company, or this target is the result of an improvement. We say we're going to do minus 10% versus last year, and so this will be the target. So a KPI will only work effectively if you set it against a target which is set in a smart way. And that's the way they work together. So that it's two different things, but working together.
Thank you very much. We also have one question that is relevant to the times of pandemic, a question about remote audits. Why is it not possible to obtain the silver level for fully remote audits? Is a fully remote audit a second-class audit? Stefan.
Yeah, thank you. It's a very good question, and we are making a lot our minds up regarding remote audits. So our main target and the main differentiator of IRIS certification towards other certificates, we really strive for a trusted certificate. A trusted certificate means that you can rely on the statement on quality performance. And with the aim that we as system integrators or the operators can reduce second-party audits, that the auditors are trusted as like an own colleague. And so for us it was a quite journey to get as well trust in remote audits and the remote auditing. So we first of all started with the paper-based processes, and approaching this step by step, learning, improving our guidelines. So you might have recognized that we have a remote audit guideline which sets the requirements for high quality remote audits, and we're elaborating this step by step, and currently we are discussing exactly this point. Will we be able to open it up for silver audits, for first certifications? This is ongoing in the work streams by elaborating further the guideline and getting trust in the remote audits, because there are definitely some risks in the remote auditing, not to grab any aspects. So this is what we're improving, and due to the fact that we have to deal with it, because we think that the COVID pandemic will continue to be, we have to find a solutions for that, and we will find a solution for that.
Thank you very much, Stefan, for that. I would now maybe wrap up our Q&A session here with a question to all of you. There are a couple of questions that are about some guidance, best practices. I would like maybe all speakers could here jump in a bit, but maybe yeah, whoever wants to start could start. The question more exactly is, can we get guidance from IRQB and clarification for specific calls for the expected process and results? Maybe Stefan, you can start.
For the key indicator now, yeah. Yeah, regarding the key performance indicator. So there is a guidance, and we issued as well a guideline on key performance indicators, giving the indication what it is, the explanation, how to manage the KPI management systems. So if you have a look on the IRIS portal, you will find the guideline over there. And we give as well a support defining the key performance indicators. To summarize in brief what I mentioned up front, first of all, we have to have a look on the stakeholders of a process, defining the targets and the requirements from the stakeholders for the process, defining the process targets, and by this defining the most important performance indicators. So those are the key performance indicators, and this answers, I think, a little bit the question as well. Yeah, how we consider the internal customers, so the process in a sequence. So also same principle, gathering the internal process stakeholders who are the internal customers, asking for their needs, asking for their requirements, having a list of process targets, and selecting the most important indicators describing the achievement of those targets. So this holds true both for internal and external processes and customers. But reference, please check out the KPI guideline on the IRIS portal.
I may complement maybe on the internal one.
Mm-hmm. Please.
Yeah, so just the answer, also complement the answer on how do you manage this internal sequence KPIs. In the selection of KPIs we have done for our pyramids, we tried making sure that in the selection of the KPIs we are able to see the sequence of activities that we have, and try to have a measurement, a KPI, for, let's say, some important milestones. So for example, we can measure, for example, the design review on time with an engineering, and we know that this one will feed, for example, the project gate reviews. We know that if we also measure the giving a go order to a supplier, so meaning giving the order to buy on time, and we know that this will influence, of course, the delivery of goods on time. If we pass an order too late, there's a good chance that we'll get our material too late. And so we have, let's say, in many cases, it's maybe not 100% perfect, but at least we have a good set of KPIs that will provide, let's say, an indication for the next step, and it will be an input for the next step.
Okay, thank you very much for all the questions asked. I believe we had quite interesting points raised here. In case you have any questions that we did not manage to get to today, then please go to the IRIS portal and contact us there, and we will get back to you and answer your questions. Before we conclude today, I just wanted to share with you the possibility to register already for the next IRQB webinar, which is coming up on 5th of March at 2, so exactly in 1 month. You can do that right now on the Mentimeter platform. So if you are already there, you can fill in the quick form and register yourself for the next IRQB webinar. Also, I would like to encourage you to follow us on Twitter as well as on LinkedIn, and visit our website irqb.org, where you find all our guideline documents, news, and other publications and information. So I encourage you to visit our sites regularly, as we do quite often updates on various aspects regarding rail quality. So finally, I would like to thank you all very much for joining us here today. It has been a great pleasure to have you, and it has been also good to see that you have many questions and you very actively engaged with us. We are very thankful for that. We are very much looking forward to welcoming you already on 5th of March. In case you want to oversee something that you saw today during the webinar, then this is possible. The webinar recording will be distributed after the end of the webinar, as well as will be the slides. So all the information that we today shared can also be later found on the IRQB website, and all of you who have registered will also receive an email with all that information included. That would be all. Thank you very much for joining, and I hope to see you soon during the next IRQB webinar on 5th of March. Thank you, and bye-bye.